So what we are the 27th Tennessee Decatur Tigers, and what me and my comrades are wearing right now is specific to their involvement in the Battle of Shiloh. And at that time, they would have been wearing pre-war or state-issued uniforms. So anywhere from battle shirts with black tape to Tennessee state frock coats with either black tape or black triangled sleeves, similar to how this gentleman has it. There were other units in the area that did have the blue cuffs, but more common in Tennessee would have been black. And as well from that, we have state militia buff leather leathers. So white belt, white cartridge box strap. This is a pre-war cartridge box. The leathers, most of them would have been about Mexican-American War era. And all homemade and acquired from home, haversacks, canteens. There's a cheese box style, which would have been very common. Another style that you would have seen is this tin canteen. The documentation lends itself to a lot of Louisiana troops, but we do know they were circulating in the Army of the Mississippi early in the war, which the 27th Tennessee was originally a part of. And as well from that, we have my blanket roll, which on the outside, most Confederate units at that time in the war didn't have great access to what the Federals call gum blankets, which is a rubberized waterproof blanket. What every Confederate easily would have had access to was called oilcloth. So this is a linen or cotton material that's been treated in linseed oil and some other ingredients, and that gives it a waterproof or water resistant. It's more water resistant than anything than waterproof. But that's protecting my two blankets, which you can see a little bit here. I have a coverlet from home, which were very common, and a fairly thin weave white wool blanket. I also have my mucket for making coffee, if and when we ever got any. And inside the blanket roll, I have a spare shirt, spare pair of socks, some candles, and a little bit of hygiene equipment like a comb, toothbrush, and writing material I keep in my haversack, as well as tobacco and rations, which I'm about out of. And there's a tin cup, which everybody would have had. And as far as arms go, it all stems back to state-issued equipment, most of it being pre-war Mexican-American War era. It was anywhere from smoothbore flintlocks to pre-war 1842 Springfields, which is what I have here. So this is 6.9 caliber. Ideally, it shoots buck and ball cartridge and is not so good at range, but if you are within 150 yards, it can do quite a bit of damage because you have one solid buckshot, or one solid ball, and 3 buckshot packed on top of it. So that one ball's going somewhere and the buckshot's going to go everywhere else. And it was favored with just about anybody using 6.9 caliber weapons as well as just plain ball shot. This gentleman right here has something else you would have seen a lot of at that time, which is called a conversion. So this used to be a flintlock musket with flint and steel, and it has been converted to percussion. So you can see here this brass plug. That's where the pan and the frizzen from the flintlock used to be. The gunsmiths removed it and added in a nipple straight into the bore on top of the barrel. So these would have been very, very common with the Army of Mississippi at this time, and many of them used throughout the war.
One of the features you would notice with these earlier conversion muskets is that they're, one, lack of a rear sight. There's just a front post. And then the other bit too is that this knob here is on the front rather than on the back, or is on the top rather than the bottom of the barrel. Reason for that is the earlier 1816 pattern bayonets are this slot style where they don't have the separate socket.
Locking ring.
So there's no separate locking ring, it's just held in there by hopes and dreams.
Well, they would have ended up engineering that so that, and this dates back to Revolutionary War in 18th century, where you didn't want your bayonet to stay locked on your rifle or musket, so that if you stabbed somebody and it got stuck in their rib cage, you could get your rifle back. And they were easier to produce without making the locking rings like you see later on. And that more or less is what you would have seen with the Tennessee regiments in spring of 1862.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Our pleasure.
That was wonderful. I'll tell you what, it was a wonderful reenactment yesterday, and I'm looking forward to today as well.
We are too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.